Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Capital Investment Committee meeting. It is October 22nd, 2022. I have a call to order. Alderman Blanton?
Here.
Alderman Brown?
Here.
Alderman Hanson?
Here.
Alderman Berger here. Then we'll move on to number one, consideration of the approval of minutes from September 22nd, 2002, Capital Investment Committee meeting. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All right, and do I have any comments on the minutes? All right, all in favor, Alderman Blanton?
Yes.
Alderman Brown?
Yes.
Alderman Hanson?
Yes.
Alderman Berger, yes. Thank you, passes 4-0. We have new business consideration, number two, consideration of draft City of Franklin contract number 2022-0249 for the sole source purchase of a Calgon Carbon Corporation for GAC exchange of 60,000 pounds of Fitrosol, is it Fitrosol? Sorb? Fitrosorb. Is it now there? This needs to be bigger. Oh, there we go. Filtrosorb. And it just went off my screen again. Okay, we'll start over here. Okay, and 300 activated carbon in the amount of $115,832.
So I failed to
There it is.
spell out the acronym GAC. So GAC is our granular activated carbon vessels at our water plant. And so this is for the purchase of the media, so replacement of the media that's in those filters. Granular activated carbon is nothing more than just charcoal. Essentially, it's just in a smaller form with a lot of surface area. It quenches the hydrogen peroxide that we inject into the system. We had it budgeted in our operating budget this year. The price has increased since I put it in the budget.
Of course.
What was that, in 20? It's increased by $15,000, so it's a little
Wow.
bit more than what I had budgeted, but it's just typical maintenance that we're doing. We're going to do one at a time, so we'll do one this year, and then in the next year subsequent, you'll see future years. I'd be
All
happy
right.
to answer any questions.
May I have a motion first?
Move. Oh, go ahead.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. I was waiting for you to pick up the slack.
Second by Alderman Blanton. All right, any questions here?
I have a question.
Yes.
How long does that typically last us?
So right now,
that's good, of course.
we probably won't replace it until 23. So it will have lasted about 5 years. And so what we're going to do is we're going to replace one of them and then kind of compare the results of that one to the other two that we have and see if there's a massive difference, and hopefully use that to kind of gauge the replacement for the other two vessels that we have. So I'm hoping 5 years, if not maybe a little bit more.
And how many do we need at a time? Like, how many of
So
these do we use?
we have 3 of them, and we use all 3 of them
Okay.
at a time. So they're filters, so we backwash them. We actually had media, the media structurally analyzed by Calgon, and it's pretty degraded. So that's why we're replacing this one as compared to the other 2 at the same time, if that makes any sense.
It does. Thank you.
What did we order last time? 60,000 pounds as well?
So
Are we ordering more?
the media in there is the first from when we put the plant in service. It's not been replaced.
Oh, since then, okay. you said-
And there's actually other manufacturers of carbon as well, so kind of like off-brands. So we replaced it with Calgon because that's who is the GAC vessels. But the next time, we're going to look at a potentially cheaper source of the same type of carbon.
Okay, all right. Do I have a motion? Do I have a vote? Alderman Blanton?
Yes.
Alderman Brown?
Yes.
Alderman Hanson?
Yes.
Alderman Berger, yes. Passes 4-0. Number 3, consideration of grant sewer availability for the unaddressed property north of and adjacent to 1261 Lewisburg Pike. Okay.
So this is for sewer availability on Lewisburg Pike. This is, the parcel is on the east side of Lewisburg Pike, kind of across from where Henpeck intersects. You can see it from the map right there. It's got that lake. The parcel that they want to
Oh, yeah.
divide has that lake on it. I think that they've talked with Paul a lot, but I'm thinking I think they just simply want to divide the property to sell the other portion. The Henpeck Interceptor runs right through there, so we don't, even though this is in county, we don't have an issue with them connecting, and the owner wants to connect.
And the property's actually already divided.
Okay.
And the sewer's on their property, we stubbed it out with the project. I
With
would
the
know
project,
because
yep.
we helped with the right-of-way acquisition on that job, so
So is it gonna be I'm sorry, I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, may I have a second?
Second.
All right, go ahead.
Is it gonna
Alderman
be the same situation where if and when we ask them to annex, they will?
You know,
Yes.
Thank you. I mean, that's kind of standard operating procedures.
Mostly.
Anytime you hook up the sewer and you're in the county, it's like, sign this piece of paper that says when we're ready, you're gonna be ready, correct?
Yeah, and
Okay.
that should be in the memo.
Okay.
That it's, the availability is contingent upon execution.
Well, we always
of both
talk
of
about it, I'm
those.
just making sure. So, thank you.
I
question.
failed to mention that, thank you.
All right, all right, that was number 3, all right. All in favor, Alderman Blanton?
Yes.
Alderman Brown?
Yes.
Alderman Hanson?
Yes.
Alderman Berger, passes 4-0. Number 4, consideration of draft change order 1 of City of Franklin contract 2021-0069 with Haran Construction for Southeast Pilot Plant and Red Wing Reclaimed Water Pump Station Project for a time extension.
So this, so Heron Construction is the contractors who were, who constructed the reclaimed water pump station and the pilot plant that we have operating in the Red Wing neighborhood right now. They had, just some kind of the project started right before COVID, and then we just had the myriad of delays in COVID. They have, to our satisfaction, substantiated a time delay with letters from manufacturers indicating there's manufacturing delays and supply chain issues that we feel and that our consultant feels is sufficient enough to warrant a time change. There's no money involved in this, so they're not getting any compensatory delays. There's no money that's being changed. This is simply just time
Yeah,
to allow them to extend the contract time without falling into liquidated damages,
yeah.
I should say.
All right, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Have a second?
Second.
All right, any comments on this? Yeah, it says right there, the shortages of materials, and so it's obviously something we need to do. All right, all in favor, Alderman Blanton?
Yes.
Alderman Brown?
Yes.
Alderman Hanson?
Yes.
Alderman Berger, yes. Thank you, it passes 4-0. All right, we are on number 5, and that is the consideration of ordinance 2022-09, an ordinance to amend the City of Franklin Municipal Code Appendix A, comprehensive fees and penalties, Chapter 16 of streets and sidewalks, etc., for the purpose of establishing a fee in lieu of building sidewalks. I'd like to know about this.
So generally, developers are required to build sidewalks along their frontage, all frontages along the development. And we had charged different fees over the years. And after we did a bunch of sidewalk projects ourselves, we evaluated what that fee should be. We changed that fee of and we've made it consistent. This is really just adopting what we have historically done, this fee in lieu, and establishing it. And anytime we do development, we want it to be predictable. We want to have guidelines that are in municipal code or in the zoning ordinance and make it easy for everyone to understand. And the way we came up with this fee is we evaluated the last 4 or 5 projects that we've done. We determined exactly what that cost is per square foot, and that's what we're adopting. So this will be something we have to reevaluate every 4 to 5 years and keep
Or
updated.
more, yeah.
Oh,
Or more,
every year.
with
Or
inflation.
less, I'm trying to
Yeah.
say.
We just need to stay up on it and make sure that we're charging enough for the fee in lieu,
Yeah.
but this makes it predictable, which is the way it should be.
Yeah.
So
Do you have a
happy to-
motion and a discussion after that?
Yeah. Move to approve.
All right,
Second?
all right. Any other comments on this or
Yeah,
questions?
go ahead, you made a motion,
Go ahead,
so go first.
Alderman Brown.
So we're more formalizing and putting into the code what we talk about often in our meetings, but the flexibility is still there for us to make those judgment calls, obviously, right?
The flexibility is still there, the way it's written today, yes.
Okay.
Whether they pay the fee in lieu of or whether they have to build the sidewalk or construct the sidewalk. I think where they have to do a PUD to be able to give you that flexibility is
Right.
the key. So they come in with a straight site plan, there is no flexibility. They either pay the fee or build the sidewalk, period. They have to come in as a PUD is my understanding of how that works. And it's all tied up actually in a zoning ordinance, and they've talked about revisiting that with the zoning ordinance update. But that has nothing to do with the establishment of the fee.
I guess maybe I'll ask it this way. You answered it, but I'll ask it this way too, is if, in other words, the decision to do sidewalks or not do sidewalks has typically come in front of BOMA to decide to do the fee. Does this make that decision happen without BOMA's involvement? In other words, they can choose to say, I just want to pay the fee and not do sidewalks, or does that still have to be something that is decided whether or not we want sidewalks or not?
So if it's a site plan, they either have to build the sidewalk or pay the fee, period, is my understanding of it. If they come in with a PUD, then they can approach BOMA with that decision. So it's all about which process they choose to move forward with. And that's, again, they're going to look at that process and what makes sense with the zoning ordinance update.
So what you're saying, let me clarify that. So what you're saying is, if they come in with a PUD, then we sort of decide that. If not, they get to choose.
Correct.
Okay.
And generally speaking, staff is going to recommend the sidewalks go in
Yep.
unless there is a capital project being proposed in which that sidewalk's going to be. That's typically how the department review team looks at those situations.
And sometimes we have a road project coming up in
Yes.
the next 1, 2, 3, 5 years, and we don't want them to put that in and rip it up.
Correct.
Alderman Blanton?
So, to me, this was basically pushed through to establish a cost.
That's it.
So how was it written before? There was
Well,
no cost
before they-
associated?
There was no cost.
Named.
And early, depending on the staff member who was writing the memo, they talked about it and came up with a cost. Well, that really wasn't a good approach, to be honest with you. So over the last 4 to 5 years, we've standardized on this fee based on all the sidewalk projects you guys have approved.
And is it an average, this $93 a
Yes.
square foot?
It's an average.
Does
Some
it
are
skew
more,
high?
some are more, some are lower. It just really.
I just, and I
depends.
obviously I'll support this to carry it through, but I can't wait to hear the conversation because I think, I'm just uncomfortable with putting a price on it. Because I feel like we could either be hurting ourselves or hurting the developer. Because $93 today, I mean, look at where we were a year ago in prices of things.
Yeah.
You know,
So I'm worried that we're gonna keep coming back adjusting this and it's, I don't know, again,
Or make
I'll
it almost
support
too,
it.
or almost make it too easy for them to be like, well, I'd rather pay $93, like, than do the sidewalk, because as costs increase, that actually could be a more viable option.
We have-
Just like all of our fees, we have got to look at them and keep them updated, and it's
Yeah.
on the staff
But
to
how many
do
times
that.
do we go, we haven't updated this in 5 years?
You're right.
Or the last time we updated this was, I'm like, I call caca, because we talked about this 2 years ago.
One of the things we've talked about too is potentially moving down the road as we look at these things and update them, is potentially indexing the fees as well. To
What does
like
that mean?
a
Help me.
national, so like a national cost index. So you've all heard of like indexing something to the consumer price index. So it's a federal index. And there's also the National Highway Construction Cost Index. So it actually goes more towards like what roadway costs are. That's kept up by the FHWA. So it's actually more appropriate to what these type of costs are. They've actually been keeping up with that, I think, since early to mid 2000s. So that's something I proposed recently for some of these kind of fees. So that's something we're looking at as well. So it actually fluctuates up and down year to year, and it's actually kept up with on a quarterly basis. So that's something we're looking at as well. It's just, it's very, very new to us to look at that, so we proposed this fee. But one of the things to keep people from just saying, oh, we'll just pay the fee, keep in mind that that fee at however many dollars per square foot also includes grading, those kind of things, erosion control. That's why that fee's so high per square foot. Just to put concrete out there, which is many years ago, when we would bond something or do a surety calculation, it wasn't that high per square foot, but what we found out, when a developer would come in and not perform, and we would try to pull a surety and actually complete that sidewalk, we might have only, the bond calculation might have just been $5,000 for that sidewalk. We couldn't go out there and build that, so we had to go back and reevaluate our bond calculations as well. So that's where we get that number, is actually you have to go out there and do earthwork, you have to go out there and do potentially drainage work, so put pipes in the ground, do ditch work, do erosion control, maybe do traffic control, and that's where it goes from maybe $10 or $12 a square foot for the actual concrete work to $100 a square foot roughly to actually do the work for the sidewalk. So ideally, it's in the best interest of the contractor to do or the developer to put the sidewalk in. They're already out there grading their entire site.
Yeah,
So if it's likely they can go ahead and put the sidewalk itself in
Yes.
cheaper, because that's what we want is the sidewalk. So we're trying to put in there a cost to say, it's likely if we're gonna go out there and do it, you're not even gonna touch the area, we're probably gonna have to do more work than you would have. So it's probably gonna be on the higher end.
Yeah.
Well, it seems to me that isn't it our preference that they put in the sidewalk?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, then why are we putting it at 93? Because it's almost like, I got a call a month ago, and somebody wanted me to do a job, okay? And I'm like, I really don't have time for this. And I'm thinking, is it worth my while? Is it worth my time? And I thought, well, I'm just gonna normally put out, if it was so many thousands, I'm gonna put on 3 to 5 more thousand, or maybe 5 more thousand, just because I really don't want the job, because I'm busy and I got other things, but it's not really worth my while to do it. So I'm thinking, they're not gonna take me up on it, because I'm gonna jack it up $5,000 just because of my time, because it has to do with me, and I'm like, so, so they can say, oh, well, it's too much, I'm not gonna do it. So don't we sort of wanna say, hey, if we're at $93 now, next year it's not gonna be at 93, it's gonna be more. So I don't think if we're saying that it's costing us 93 today, why are we at 93? We should be at 95, we should be at 98 possibly. I don't know if that's a big enough jump. So wouldn't we encourage them to do this by saying, oh, we can do it for less because we're already out there, we have our equipment, and we discourage them from in lieu of?
I honestly believe that $93 a square foot is going to encourage most developers to say, I will do it myself because I can do it
You
cheaper.
think that's enough?
I
Yeah.
believe it will, because
You do.
if you're curb and
That's what
guttering
I
a
wanna
road,
know.
if you're already having to curb and gutter a road, which we require the curb and
Yes.
gutter, it is significantly cheaper just to put in the sidewalk.
Yes.
But if we have to come in and it's an open ditch type
Exactly.
scenario, it's this $93 a square foot. But with most developers being required to curb and gutter, it's not
Okay,
gonna.
so in other words, this is enough to probably deter them, to encourage them, while
Yes.
they're out there doing the job, they'll go ahead and do it.
Yes.
Because really, we don't want to do that.
No, we do not.
Right.
This is basically the cost as if this would be a project. You'd come out there, and we'd actually have to go out there and treat this as a sidewalk project.
Okay,
and
so
come do
that,
it.
Highway 96, east and west, where we spent millions of dollars putting in sidewalk. That's what
Okay,
this is based
good.
off.
All right.
I have a
Okay.
question.
So you talk
Yeah.
about the index.
Yes.
Why can't we attach it to the current index instead of a number? If we
a good
are
question.
associating ourselves with, this is where we get our whatever from,
Oh.
and it's not the price, I don't know crap about how much sidewalks cost. To me, it's setting a fixed rate.
The thought was just, we wanted to go ahead and get the cost established out there and get that
Yeah.
predictability there. And the cost index is something we're looking at for several different cost or
okay.
prices that we have around the city. We haven't put enough thought, or there's not enough direction yet. We're not sure which index we're gonna go with. There's different thoughts and
So
just
this is a
different groups.
starting point.
It's a starting
starting
point.
Thank you.
Exactly
Okay.
right.
All
We just needed to get something established, so we're not making numbers
And we
up.
can
That's
come
right.
back and.
And
But I have a
start over.
question.
We want
Alderman
consistency.
Hanson.
Based on a conversation I literally had today with a builder, the Mississippi River is virtually closed down for transport, and who knows when it will open again or when we'll have enough water to open it. Because of that, we are continuing in going into a worse concrete shortage situation than we already were in. And they're not even able to finish some of their homes. Do we have any leniency on the timeline for them to put these sidewalks in, given
Yeah, the
these
timeline's-
mitigating circumstances?
It's bonded, and it's up to them to get it done. I mean, we're not forcing a timeline on developers
Okay.
on private development side. It's really up to
and-
them.
yeah, and they
Unless
can-
they're not performing, then we can call the bond, but we don't want to do that either.
And then they can come back if they need more time, because there's a shortage, and go to the planning commission and say, don't, pull our bond, we're not gonna, we're still not able to do it because it's not our fault.
Yeah.
That's a legitimate reason to come and ask for an
Exactly.
extension.
We're seeing that all the time up here lately, so,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, good discussion. Anything else? All right, all in favor, Alderman Blanton?
Yes.
Alderman Brown?
Yes.
Alderman Hanson?
Yes.
Alderman Berger, yes. All right, we're moving to number 6. My computer will cooperate. All right. All right. Consideration, number 6, consideration of draft Amendment 3 to City of Franklin Contract 2020-0012 with Hazen and Sawyer for this city's southeastern area wastewater capacity evaluation for a not-to-exceed amount of $3,042,400.
So this is actually Amendment 4 to that contract. There was I copied the previous agenda item, so that's my mistake. I'll correct that when it goes on, when it moves forward.
Right.
So on Amendment 4, there's a couple different tasks that are associated with this. This is for the southeast area capacity evaluation that we're doing. This is, so in part of our overall schedule to be able to provide the additional capacity, the additional wastewater capacity that we need by the time frame that we project that we need it by, there's a couple things that we need to do in preparation of potentially submitting a permit. Right, so this is not definitely submitting a permit yet, we've not decided that yet, but this is doing the actions to get there. So this is developing a preliminary engineering report and then performing a water quality model on the Harpeth. And then this is kind of helping with some of those application materials to TDEC. So we're still going to go through, once the demonstration facility has operated and we can determine, what kind of reuse method we can do, we're then going to determine what type of facility is needed, and that will be presented in front of the board. This is just the preliminary work to get to that point. There's also so in the previous item, you had given a change order to Heron. We have to have additional inspection for that time. So that additional inspection time is covered in here as well. And then we've also got some facility support by Hazen. So we have 2 operators from both our water plant and our reclamation facility that are helping run that pilot. But because we're so short-staffed at those facilities, I don't have a lot of extra staff to spare while maintaining operations. So we've had to ask Hazen to provide some additional support. We're looking at hiring an intern as well. But we just need some help to make sure that we can, we've got one shot at this to make sure we do it right. So that's what's all included in this amendment.
Motion to approve.
All right,
Second.
all right. Any other discussion?
Yeah, so-
Alderman Brown?
I mean, a lot of times we see much smaller numbers on these. There's a big number,
Sure, it is.
a very big number. Is it, I mean, obviously we saw this. Did we see this? Is this budget somewhere? Where's this coming from, I guess, is my big question, is sort of where are we pulling this $3 million from? And were we planning for this $3 million in a?
Yeah, so this is part of, this is being pulled from impact fees.
Okay.
This is part of the, if you remember in a couple impact fee presentations ago, we had kind of tallied up the cost that came up with that large impact fee number for sewer.
Yeah.
And this was a part of that number.
Okay.
So these are costs that we anticipated we had to incur to get to the point of a new facility. And I see one.
Is this part of our contingency?
This is a separate project.
Okay.
So this is the southeast study.
Oh, got
So
it.
the bulk of this is a preliminary engineering report, which will define how we're proposing to TDEC that we're going to treat wastewater and
Okay.
what the ultimate discharge is going to be. Is it going to be reuse? Is there a discharge point to the Harpeth River? There's a number of other alternatives that they're evaluating. So the bulk of this work really kind of sets the stage on how we do the design work. So this is going to carry us through middle fall of next year. Is that correct? And then at that point, we'll be able to submit a permit to TDEC, which is, that's going to be an extensive process that we go through, a public process as well. And at that point, we'll make a recommendation to the board in the direction we want to go in, give you all some opportunity, obviously, for input on how we're proceeding. And then at that point, we can go to a design, which will take 2 to 3 years.
Design?
Yes, it's a very detailed process, and at that point, make the determination to construct. So it's a lot of moving parts to this, but the preliminary engineering work is key in order for us to be able to establish the technologies that we're going to use in order to treat water for future customers.
But our current impact fees are covering this cost, not the ones that we're proposing that we've not gone through yet.
So we will need to make the
Michelle's face like, I don't know what you just asked me.
But I know what you,
I think she knows what I asked her. I don't know if you like what I just asked you, but I did ask
Pretend you're
that.
not raising the fees, we'll cover it.
we'll be able to pay for this whether we raise the fees or not.
Okay.
But there is moving forward with ultimately
Design,
design, which
sure.
is also going to be a very large number. And then, of course, the construction piece, we're going to have to settle in on what the path forward is on impact fees here in fairly short order. But
I realize we're just recommending up
Yes,
to the
sir.
board, so there's going to be more discussion here.
course.
But I would think I'm not the only board member that's going to ask the question,
Yeah.
right.
is this paid for
Right.
now, or are we spending ahead of something that we haven't even had a chance to really
Yeah,
debate and discuss, which I think there are a lot of questions about the impact fees that are being proposed going
Right.
forward. So I just don't want to outspend policy that we've not made yet.
So an impact fee relative to $3 million you know, I think the plant, the expected total all-in plant cost, including construction, we're in the neighborhood of 200 million. This is, you know, 1 to 2% of that total. So the relative sort of impact on the impact fee is pretty small. So I think we can kind of float this until we make a decision on moving forward.
Understood, I understood. But they're also the first numbers.
Yep.
Prior to us really establishing where that pool's gonna come
Right.
from, and that's really what I'm asking, is just not get ahead of ourselves
No,
here,
I
but-
understand. And this is about a 9-month project. The schedule that Michelle had referred to earlier, when we project out, you know, how much wastewater we can discharge to the river, it's a pretty tight schedule. So we're trying to stay on top of that. That's why we're bringing it forward now. And again, I acknowledge it's ahead of the final
Jonathan?
discussion on impact fees. but
Sure.
Anyway.
Jonathan did say scary. It is Halloween.
Yeah.
This is definitely the largest part of the undertaking in the city. I mean, it's massive.
Okay. All right, may I have a vote on this? Alderman Blanton?
Yes.
Alderman Brown?
Yes.
Alderman Hanson?
Yes.
All right, well, moving on to number 7. Okay, we are, consideration of draft City of Franklin Contract 2022-0275, a reimbursement agreement with Columbia Gulf Transmission LLC for natural gas pipeline adjustments, removals, alterations, and/or relocations associated with the East McEwen Drive Phase 5 extension project at an estimated cost of $1,549,595.
So you've heard us talk about the inevitable gas relocations of those 3 major high-pressure gas lines that kind of crisscross, they diagonally cut through the county. And they cut right across the middle of our McEwen 5 extension project, and we told you we had to get those moved out of the way, relocated to get that project going, and we've struggled to get anything from the gas company. Well, we finally got that information back from the gas company. We've done the coordination with them, and we've got this agreement from them. Finally, this is, originally when we talked about the capital prioritization for the projects, the last 2 times we've done it, we really didn't have anything here. We kind of had a range, and it was like anywhere from $1.5 million to $10 million. It's like, well, that's the range they've given. This is like, guys, that's a huge range. Could you narrow it down? They're like, no, we really can't narrow it down yet. So we're finally happy to at least have a range, and it's on the lowest end of that. So they've told us, rather than actually have to relocate the lines, they expect us to be able to open them up, or open the earth up, go down, inspect the lines, recoat them, cover them back up, and then actually do some protective coverings over the top with some concrete caps. And that's
Just in one area?
across the entire right-of-way of the, so it's three lines, so it's across the entire right-of-way. And their right-of-way, I think, through there is, what was it, 150 feet wide?
50 feet, yeah.
It's 50
Lot of
feet,
money.
50 feet for each line.
This is a very low number compared to what they
Yes.
originally told us. It was originally around $10 million is what they told us the budget.
For the,
If you
For the
remember this,
For the full replacement. So
this-
they're not actually making us replace the lines here. So we're
Oh,
actually
they're
just,
not?
we're not replacing the lines here, no. The lines are actually staying in place. We're digging down, inspecting the lines, taking
And
the
then
coating off,
marking that, yeah.
recoating them, and actually putting protective concrete covers over the top
Yeah.
of them. And they're letting us leave
oh,
them in
that's great,
place.
because I thought we had to replace them.
That we thought
Oh.
so too, and they gave us the options of doing that, and in full disclosure, we may get down there and we say, they're in worse shape than we thought, but they're confident that we can be able to do what we're showing. So that's the agreement we've got before you.
All right,
and if you remember, this is jointly funded by the City of Franklin, City of
City of
Brentwood. And it's kind of up to Brentwood as to when this project actually gets funded and moves forward. One of the things we've talked about is possibly moving forward with a small project just to get this section done because of how difficult the coordination is
Yeah.
associated with this. So we got to get through this process first, but we're evaluating that so that when Brentwood says you have to deliver the project, we're able to deliver that in a certain time frame. And their staff has been great to work with and have been evaluating this with us the entire time.
And we don't want this to delay the project, because obviously, we have that commitment now to deliver the project within
You have to.
2 years of Brentwood giving us the funding for
Yeah,
it.
you have to.
If we still have to move these lines, there's no way that happens. So we want to get these lines
Yeah.
moved.
it's a good idea. May I have a motion, please?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Any other questions here? Oh, okay, so you said we might look at possibly doing this project and getting it done, right?
That's our strong
And that's-
recommendation, is to go ahead and move forward.
What's the length over there? Is it a quarter of a mile, a half mile? What is that?
It's the length of the right-of-way. We can measure on there and see the exact length
Of the overall road project, I
of
think.
the overall road.
So we're saying, we're thinking we might look at doing the road.
No, we would go ahead, we
just-
would go ahead and do we would do
just
just
this.
enough to get across and do the work to access the project site for the actual gas lines.
Okay.
Just get the gas
Just the
work done.
gas
And
work.
how long of a distance is that?
It's not, it'd just be a random stretch of road.
Yeah, we would just
out
do enough to
there.
get to it and actually just cover the lines with
Okay.
the roadway. It would
I
not
see.
be an accessible roadway. It
All
might
right,
not
so
even-
you're not
would not be
talking about
used.
getting
Would
in
not
there
be
and doing a
utilized.
project. When you said that, I thought,
No.
really?
We
Are
would,
we
yeah, we would
gonna-
just do enough to get the project
Oh.
over the line so we would not disturb it in the
Okay.
future.
Yeah, well, this is an important project, I would say, to the region. It's not necessarily a huge, important project to the city of Franklin. It really benefits more Brentwood than it does Franklin. But through the agreements we have a certain amount of time
Yeah,
to deliver
that's
it.
the
And the
problem
reason,
there.
and the reason for that is we don't want to come back in the future and have some sort of new regulation hit us to where they say,
Oh, yeah.
sorry, you're disturbing this line now, all of a sudden you've got to replace the lines, and now the
Yeah.
lines cost $15 million to replace them.
So we'd
We
build,
want to, while they have a decision, we want to go ahead and move forward with that decision.
Yeah,
so the option we're looking at is, once we get through all this engineering, do we build a 300-foot section of roadway just to be done with the gas company? So they can't go back on
we
us.
might have to. Who knows?
We'll continue to evaluate with the Brentwood staff and
Yeah.
Eric, and eventually we'll
Or at
bring
least
it
do the
back.
earthwork
And then
and
we
get the
can,
bulk of the earthwork
yeah.
done.
Okay, great. All in favor, Alderman Blanton?
Yes.
Alderman Brown?
Yes.
Alderman Hanson?
Yes.
Passes 4-0. So let's go back to 6. I'm being told that we did not take a vote on 6, but I thought we did.
We did, Alderman Berger, I believe that you did not cast your vote.
Oh, I did not?
During
Yes, I
that
did.
item.
I didn't hear me? Nor on number 7. On 6 and 7?
Oh,
What,
okay.
you're not hearing me?
That's what I.
Aye,
So your vote on number 6
aye. Is aye?
and your vote on number 7?
Aye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry, you're not hearing me.
No, no,
Hello?
it's okay.
Hello?
Thank you, Alderman
Let me
Berger.
pull my mic closer, I'm sorry. Okay, but everybody else you heard. Okay. All righty. Now we're moving on to number 8, consideration of draft resolution 2022-69, a resolution to award the construction contract, City of Franklin, number 2022-0114 for the Highlandsdale Farm Multi-Use Path Project. And that is DeMat Construction Company LLC in the amount of $3,563,898.03.
This is the
Wow.
Transportation Alternatives Program, so the TAP grant funds we have for $2 million in federal funds. This is to construct that project, the Harlansdale Bridge and Trail Project.
And now-
Any motion?
Well, yeah, first, motion to approve, yes.
Second.
Okay, Alderman Brown.
Obviously, one of my favorite things that we're doing right now, so
Oh,
love
there
it,
you
it's
go.
great. I'm just curious, why did we choose to do that sidewalk, though, over towards the Hayes House versus coming into the main, like hanging down, coming down through, maybe you guys, I don't even know if you're the right, if you know this answer, but why are we not headed more towards the center of the farm there and then out towards like the factory area and all of that? I'm just kind of curious. It seems like our greater opportunity for connectivity is to get back out to those sidewalks we just put in on Franklin Road, get over to the factory, get downtown, where we kind of come across the bridge and now we're hanging our left towards the Hayes House.
So originally, what we had to have, one, we were looking at what grant funding we had available. The other thing is there's the interurban railroad, which is planned through here,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is another project.
Right, yeah, right.
We have to have an accessible parking area so that this trail is accessible to all individuals. And so the thought process
Got it.
was to start the interurban, and we worked closely with our Parks Department to try to prioritize
Mm-hmm.
and balance all these different needs. But there is another project that can easily be evaluated when we update CIP to extend the interurban and try to get to that connectivity that you're talking about.
Okay, yeah.
Does that answer your
It
question?
does, thank you, yeah.
The other thing I just want to brag on our CIP team is if you ask TDOT or meet with TDOT, they'll tell you 7 to 10 years to deliver a project with capital funds. Or with federal funds in it. That's generally for the big projects that they do, and even our big projects that we do. We have historically been able to do these projects in about 4 to 5 years to get them to construction, sometimes even under that 4-year time frame, this is one of them. So just really proud of the fact that they were able to get it done and deliver it in that time frame, and it just shows their commitment to delivering your project.
Okay,
Great, thank you.
all right, any other comments? All right, all in favor, Alderman Blanton?
Yes.
Alderman Brown?
Yes.
Alderman Hanson?
Yes.
Alderman Berger? Yes. There you go. All right, moving on to number 9, consideration of change order 1, final of the City of Franklin contract 2020-0113, a construction contract with Stanzel Electric Company for the Adaptive Signal Control Technology Project for deduct, of amount of $17,366. When I read that earlier, I went, oh, we don't get
You
many
guys
of
don't
those.
get too excited. It's not a whole lot, but it is a deduct.
it's
'Cause
some
we're not
money.
adding, we're deducting.
Yeah.
This is just the final closeout paperwork
Yeah,
for that
I
contract to close
figured.
it out.
Motion to approve.
Second?
All right, any other discussion? All in favor, Alderman Blanton?
Yes.
Alderman Brown?
Yes.
Alderman Hanson?
Yes.
Alderman Berger? Yes. And then we will move on to number 10, which is our capital projects dashboard and status update for October 2022. Y'all want to give us
I'll really
some-
just answer any questions you have on this, on any projects in general.
Okay, Alderman, what do you want? Anybody want to jump in? Any other
Don't
questions?
this week, I really don't.
What, tell us Franklin Road, where are we at?
Oh,
'Cause
yeah.
They're still digging.
They're still actively working out there. The latest schedule they've given us shows us being done with the vast majority of construction by the end of the year. The only things they're not gonna have done by the end of the year, based on their latest schedule, would be the final topping of the road, striping, and any
Can't
landscaping.
do that.
Just
yeah.
because of shutdowns.
No.
To the average citizen, it will look open, but there will still be a.
It'll be drivable, you'll have the roadway, the lanes will be open, you just won't have that final inch
Yeah.
and a half of surface.
Yeah.
And you won't have striping, and there won't be trees out there, but obviously, I don't know if we really want to plant trees in December, to be honest with you.
What kind of striping?
The pavement line, final pavement markings, we'll have temporary lines down.
Yeah.
So you won't notice the difference, it just won't have like what they've just done on 96 East and West, the final lines.
Like a top coat that finishes a
Correct.
subdivision.
So they're proposing to do that in like mid-January, but we're being realistic about that too and saying
All right.
plants are generally closed then. So if we have good weather days, the topping itself only takes, topping and striping all together is probably about a week's worth of work. So if we get some good warm weather days, that's great, but if not, we're still talking about options to do there.
Yeah, but you have to have, above 50 for 2 or 3 days, isn't it?
For that mix, I believe it's have to be either 40 or 45 and rising.
For a few days, right,
Yes.
at least?
And I'll tell you, had we not done that closure, I don't think we would have
No,
been
you
able to
wouldn't
get
have
this done this
No.
They
year.
actually got
So
more done during the closure than they thought they would.
it was
Yeah.
painful, but I'm very thankful that we did it, and
All road closures are painful.
yes.
So what did you say about the landscaping? When are they going to do that?
That was planned to be done after the first of the year as well.
And they will do that?
Yes, and one of the things we're talking about
That's
now
good.
is we would rather them do that before they do the topping. We don't want them out there with skid steers moving
Yeah,
around on
no.
the surface and tearing anything up.
That's a good idea, yeah. Any other comments? Alderman
And
Hanson.
Senator Jack Johnson is actually having a town hall next week in regards to Franklin Road.
It's the Brentwood section
So,
of it.
But he's
Yeah.
going to also address Franklin. I spoke to somebody today. It's going to be
In case they wanna know.
the whole stretch of it as well. And then when we talk about landscaping, are they going to do something to hide those 22 boxes they put up on that
They're
little
horrible.
narrow stretch that looks so atrocious?
Yeah, terrible.
Yes, there will be some landscaping done. There's a trade-off. You could have the utility poles, or you could have those utility boxes.
Seems like an excessive
We-
number compared to other areas
so
that have
close.
We
hidden-
undergrounded about 5 fiber companies, underground electric. With that amount of infrastructure, you're gonna have those boxes. So you either get the poles, or you're gonna have the boxes. Now, we do our best. We're not perfect. We do our best to try to put those on property lines. We try to put them in areas that can be easily landscaped and hidden. We do the same thing with fire hydrants. But it's a trade-off, is what I tell the residents. And usually during the negotiations or right-of-way acquisition process, we do try to show that to them and highlight that to them so that there's not a surprise. Sometimes we tell them, sometimes they don't hear, sometimes a utility company will be forced to change things up during construction, but this to me is the better option than the overhead poles.
I mean, I
It's
think it
the
was a
trade-off.
surprise to me, maybe even more than the residents, just because we worked so hard on an aesthetically pleasing
Yeah.
community. And the minute we leave downtown or the gateway coming in, it's hideous. Like, is there no way to do a container box and couple them together? I mean, it's bad.
It's
It looks
really-
Right there on the
really
sidewalk.
bad.
It's really up to the individual utilities of what they're willing to, it's their infrastructure ultimately, that infrastructure
They
belongs
don't
to them.
care.
But they own it and they maintain it, so we can't have something installed out there that they're not gonna own and maintain, because what you're seeing out there are their transformers, their transfer switches, their boxes, everything that belongs to those utilities, so it has to be to their specifications. There are some utilities in different areas that do underground boxes. We're not in an
Oh,
area,
yeah.
we're not in an area that does that for ours.
And
That's
they
up
don't
to
care
the
how
utilities.
beautiful our city is, they just care about accessibility to their
there's-
boxes.
I agree with you.
Yes, and that's one of the things that you see, even in our area, people do plant things around the boxes, but I can tell you that when they
They
have to
come and
get-
take them out.
They
My
will take
yard,
them out, and
they
it's
come
a
and take them
safety issue
out.
for them. There's a certain clear space beyond those boxes.
And
They
there's
will
not
take them
one
out.
here, because this hugs the sidewalk, so I don't know how they're gonna hide that,
Yeah.
those
No, there
few.
won't. And one of the things we ran into this, if you remember the discussions of everyone wanting to narrow in and keep everything as close to the roadway as we could, one of the disadvantages that people just don't realize when we do that is
Boxes.
everything gets moved in as well. So when you walk that sidewalk, you're going to see dozens of pull boxes in that sidewalk, because when you squeeze everything into that right of way, all of those utilities that Paul mentioned have to go somewhere, and you have to be able to access everything that goes underground somehow, and that involves a pull box. So you're gonna see lots of pull boxes. So there has to be somewhere to get to all of that. So all of these things that we like, all the electricity, and like Paul said, it's alphabet soup with all your fiber and
Yeah,
telecommunications companies.
I
They
understand
all
that.
have their own pull box and fiber. It's
And
all out there.
While we are also planting trees, not all property owners want us to landscape around these boxes. Because then they say, well, are you going to maintain it? And the answer is no, it's on private property.
Right.
But I do think over time, you will see a lot of those homeowners plant their own landscaping and do their best to hide it. But again, I think it looks a million times better than the utility poles. They're all over Hillsborough
They
Road
are.
too.
Yeah.
They're
Anytime
all
you do
over our
these
city.
projects. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we need to do something. All
Actually,
right,
do have
well,
one
we'll-
more,
go
one more
ahead.
thing, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Something to consider. So we're laying that sewer, Cool Springs, from McHatcher down. This is going to sound really small and tic-tac-y, but it's a shared frustration that I know that multiple of us have. There was always the small, little tiny sign behind a tree that said, continuous right turn, don't stop. That came down, obviously, because of the sewer lines going in. Can I ask us to consider putting in a larger sign and a more visible sign to get people to make that right turn? I'm thinking about these new developments coming in there too, and I will tell
They
you,
keep moving.
I do pretty well driving in this town, but that intersection is going to put me over the top.
Just one matter of clarification, that is not us, that is a different utility. But yes, we share that frustration there. And one of the things our streets department, I believe, in the upcoming year is gonna be, and I won't speak completely for them, this is my understanding, is that section of Cool Springs Boulevard is on their repaving schedule imminently. Not this year, obviously, they don't have enough time this year left in the paving season, but to be repaved. And that's one of the things I want to work with Adam about, is how we can improve that right turn lane, about getting people more visually aware of how to move forward and
Yes.
keep moving in that right turn lane, because we're both aware of that. And the reason you had the signage that was out there was because of Adam.
Yeah.
And some of the other things I see in that right turn lane is, as you make that sharp turn, people are hopping over too quick, too.
Yeah,
They
there
wanna
need to be the
pull
little
over.
rubber, the little white
The delineators.
delineators.
Yes.
I got 100 ideas, but
So some of those
please.
things, we want to do those as it gets repaved, but the signage will go back up as
Sorry,
soon
Adam,
as,
I can't take it.
as soon as the utility's done, we'll get the signage back up, but we want to enhance that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, may I have a motion to?
So move.
Motion
Adjourn.
to adjourn,
Fill in the blank, Bev.
or
Get it
whatever you
one
like.
time and one time only.
Whatever you like. Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Alderman Blanton?
Yes.
Alderman Brown?
Yes.
Alderman Hanson?
Yes.
Alderman Berger? Yes.
On that one, you can.